All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. And I have a special guest with me in town, Miss Jacque Johnson from Profile Africa. And we're going to continue on the topic Africa Now and Beyond. Africa Now 2020 and Beyond. And this is part 2. So,
Ms. Hey, Johnson, everybody.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm so happy. This is like a seminal moment because Dynasty and I have been friends for about 4 years, almost 5, and we always film away from each other. And I'm constantly telling him, he's amazing. I'm sure everybody agrees. He's totally amazing. And that we should do more online together. I think it's very insightful when we can really come together and share intensely about the amazing things and even some of the controversial things that's actually going on in Africa right now. We are on the heels of a new decade. 2020 is less than 20 months apart. And my question to the audience is, are you ready for business in Africa now, 2020 and beyond? Simply because 7 out of 10 of the world's fastest growing economies are on the continent of Africa, and it holds an immense measure of opportunities to do business successfully and sustainably in Africa. So, but the first thing, before we talk about that, we're going to kind of switch roles a little bit because Dynas just left Nigeria. And
love Nigeria.
And when we were talking, he said, "Oh, Jacque, I know you're going to be mad at me, but Nigeria is my favorite place on the continent." And I'm saying, I'm not mad. My company's called Profile Africa. I'm just based in South Africa, but I love the entire continent. So before we get started talking about 2020 and beyond, I want to know why you love Nigeria. And just what was the overall tenor of your experience there?
I would say this, Nigeria has such a bad reputation outside of Nigeria. I'm not an Igbo man. Nigeria has such a bad reputation outside of Nigeria that it was refreshing to see how beautiful the people were, the culture, and also too, what people have to understand about Nigeria, especially for Black people who are interested in doing business in Nigeria. Nigeria is has the largest Black population on the planet, almost 200 million people. With that being said, that's the largest Black market.
Right. In the world.
In the world.
In the world.
And it's English speaking.
Correct.
So you don't have to learn French, Portuguese. It's English speaking, which is a plus. But again, it's just Nigeria is such a beautiful place. Don't get me wrong; it has its issues. It does have some serious infrastructure problems in regards to roads, but it's such a great place. The people are beautiful. I think it's the media and some Nigerians outside of Nigeria that give Nigeria a bad name. But I'm trying to go back to Nigeria again this year. That's how much I love Nigeria.
Yeah. Well, I want to say to the audience that before I ever set foot on the African soil, it was Nigerians here in Atlanta that actually taught me what being an African was all about before I ever went to Africa, which is why while I'm in South Africa, people think I'm Nigerian. They say, here comes that Nigerian American woman. So it is the Nigerian culture, beauty, excellence, spirit of royalty that was introduced to me as I moved around Atlanta for years before I ever actually went to Africa to learn it myself firsthand. And that had an indelible and irreplaceable, non-erasable mark on me as a person. It also gave me a spiritual infrastructure of stamina and stability and clarity of identity before I went to Africa. And then it became in depth more by being exposed to the Zulu culture. So we got Nigeria, the most strongest cultural country on the continent, coupled with Zulu power. I can't be stopped now, Dynas.
Right.
I just can't be stopped.
Keep going.
I just can't be stopped in this world, period. Because I carry that with me everywhere I go. Even as an African American, most people, when they meet me, they automatically assume that I came directly from Africa right now. And so I know that that is part and parcel because of the Nigerian elements that I acquired early on in my interest in engaging with Africa, and then what I obtained thereafter by actually living in Africa via South Africa. So, okay, yes, Nigeria boasts the largest population on the continent.
And their GDP, did it surpass South Africa for a minute, or?
Yeah, for a brief, well, when President Goodluck Jonathan was the president of Nigeria, it was then that they had exceeded South Africa and had the strongest GDP. They've fallen off a bit since then. And since then, South Africa has regained that title and continued to sustain it. But Nigeria,
no, it's Nigeria.
It's Nigeria now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, they go back and forth. Yeah. It's almost like how in Atlanta and then DC debate a lot around who has the strongest African-American community. One year it's DC, next year is Atlanta, and it kind of goes back and forth. But that's good. That's great, because they need to keep having positive economic stories coming out of Nigeria. And in my view, even if they didn't, the population numbers alone with people on the ground,
200 million,
gives anybody with a plan and an opportunity and some on the ground networking an ability to go there and do business well. So I'm definitely going to Nigeria in 2019. I've gotten some pretty high-end invitations that I will be taking people up on. So I'm really excited to be able to do that. So what would you say are the 5 most amazing things about Nigeria?
The people, culture, food. I love the food. Food was good there.
Yeah.
People, culture, food. I think just the opportunity is there. I think opportunity is another thing. And then I just think this ties into the opportunity. I think it's just the future. Nigeria is the future of Africa. That's my. I know you're partial to South Africa.
No,
I know you are.
I'm really not, because I'm partial to the 7 out of 10 of the fastest growing economies on the continent of Africa, and clearly Nigeria is one of them. So that's what's important. You know, my base is in South Africa, but I perceive myself to eventually own homes across the continent.
Me too. For me,
Senegal, Ghana.
For me, Senegal, Nigeria, and Benin.
At Benin, I hear so much about Benin. And I'm also hearing a lot about the Gambia. It's on the rise as well. And so, you know, it's just so amazing and exciting and thrilling. I honestly can tell you, I really would not be doing anything else in my whole life. I really would not. There is no high-rise apartment in New York City, my other center of the universe. I do love New York, but there's just nothing. I can't even fathom anything that doesn't point to Africa that I would be involved in. And I'm so happy to see people like Dynas continue his journey and be able to create this platform to inform and empower and enlighten and even challenge people, because it is a place still of challenge.
Absolutely.
And I think that I challenge him and he challenges me, and that's why we're good friends.
I think you challenge me more.
I do. And I'm always on him. He's great, but I see him being way bigger and greater than what he currently is. But, you know, keep your eye on him. He's someone to watch. I will say that Dynas is definitely someone to watch in the landscape of Africa 2020 and beyond. And that's the other thing I think is important to share with your audience, is that it takes time to really cultivate your power, your influence, your brand, as well as opportunities in Africa. And because we have been consistent in that over the years, then there is a growth experience that we'll have just out of being consistent. And I think that also it's been important that we pave the way for a lot of other people. And when we say pave the way, we may not mean exactly specific opportunities, but more importantly, the relationships and the ability for others in Africa to understand us and our intent that we have definitely achieved, and not just me and Dynast alone, but so many others have been going to Africa as African Americans, doing business, living there, working there, sharing and caring there, enough for that sense of distrust to be at a very minimal now. Wherein 13 years ago, when I first entered South Africa, I can tell you that the mindset—
How was it 13 years ago? Tell us how was South Africa 13 years ago?
Yeah, 13 years ago, the mindset on a lot of South Africans at that time, because they weren't that far out of apartheid, just celebrating 10 years in their democracy, they still had the mindset to distrust Black people and still trust white people.
Right.
And so as an American coming there under the George Bush, banner of administration, meaning he was president. And when you're in Africa or just about anywhere else on foreign soil, people tend to relate to you based on what your president's brand power is and what they think of him militarily, etc. So when I entered South Africa, George W. Bush, who was manning Iran and Iraq wars that people didn't so much agree with, that's what I had to grapple with when I got there. And so there was some element of distrust, but it instantly changed and became so much better when Barack Obama, a son of the African soil, had become president, at least in their minds and how they related to me and everything. So, and then just the people were still so broken.
Right.
And it required an enormous amount of compassion and care and concern on my part to understand that people can't just jump and do business when they're still emotionally, psychologically bleeding.
Right.
And so we had to kind of go through that phase of their healing before real business could get underway. And it eventually did, but I think I spent a good 5 to 7 years, more or less, working on culture, proving myself, and just getting to know things that only living on the soil would give me. Yeah.
Guys, we have 117 people watching, only 31 likes. Please hit that like button as you guys come into the chat. Please hit the like button. So you've been putting an emphasis on 2020 and beyond as far as Africa goes, and getting involved, getting something established by 2020, or that window of opportunity might close. Let's unpackage that some more. I know we've done it, but I know you want to really, really hit people over the head. Like, look, you need to be serious. You got a small window. You got—
It's my message.
It's almost 2019. It's already September. It's almost October.
Right.
September.
Right. That's what we have. I mean, okay, with the year being 12 months, okay, maybe 15 months. We have about 15 months to 2020. And that should be alarming to anybody who doesn't have a forward plan, period, aside from just Africa. But you better have a plan of how you're going to go forward in your life in the next decade. Because as I said before, with 5G coming, it's really going to change the landscape of business for everyone, how you engage it domestically in the United States and then around the world. I do want to talk about 2 things that I've experienced recently that was extremely inspiring. Number one, about a month ago, or at the end of July, I participated in the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce annual business conference. And it encompassed all the Black chambers around the country, CEOs and members. And we had for the first time, or they had for the first time, a doing business in Africa segment of their conference. And it was eye-opening for so many people, and some amazing opportunities are coming as a result of that. Because here's the deal, in these larger business sectors or segments, a lot of African Americans aren't being told that Africa has risen and is open for business. And that's an important dialogue to start engaging, so that people who are in business already have stable, entrepreneurship skills can get involved. And a lot of times they are out here doing their business with no way of knowing how to connect to the African market. So that was amazing and an eye opener for me to see how many African Americans are in business and very much ready and inspired to go to Africa and look at opportunities. And so I had an opportunity to be on a panel at the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce annual summit. And I really think that these kind of larger platforms that have a national footprint is part of one of the keys that's going to really help us continue to get that message out. Secondly, just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Florida. I attended the Black Enterprise Men's Excel Summit, and there was a one-on-one fireside chat with TD Jakes, along with, it was conducted by the CEO of Black Enterprise. And Bishop Jakes, he's such an out there Renaissance man. He was talking about your next for business, etc., and even where Africa sits right now. And he reminded the audience that his new book called Soar, that has become a New York Times bestseller, he launched it in South Africa.
Wow.
Instead of here first in the United States. And it was like an hour fireside chat, but a good 30 minutes of it was really focused on how important it is to look outside your immediate geography for your business and start looking at Africa.
Right.
And he began to share about his influence there and how what he's doing business-wise is impacting the continent, and how it has played a pivotal role in his next, where he's headed, where his mindset is, and how much more powerful it was to launch his book in South Africa and other African countries before it even hit here in the United States. And I thought for someone of his stature and his influence globally, that it was really important to recognize how he saw Africa and why he chose to spend 30 minutes of his interview at Black Enterprise talking about the continent itself. And so when you hear leaders like TD Jakes, who could stay here in America and continue to rock it, starting to look to Africa, I think that too becomes something that you want to put a marker on and say, wow, and take a look at that space for yourself. Because one of the prevailing messages that he said that I always say, which was quite riveting, is something I've said to your audience at least 5 times.
What's that? That
the internet is the great equalizer.
Right.
I have said that so many times, and it's something to pay attention to, because if you're 45 or older or 50 or older, perhaps you carry a vast amount of knowledge than the average African of your same age. But if you are a millennial, then there is very little knowledge advancement that you have, or knowledge advantage that you would have over an African your same age, simply because the internet is the great equalizer. So you have to understand that no longer do you have a knowledge advantage, because those kids, let me tell you, they are a lot more aggressive to go after their goods. They're not even chasing millions. They're chasing billions, and they're not going to stop till they get it. They believe that they are justly due everything their forefathers didn't get at a large level. See, unlike us, we don't, as African Americans, oftentimes we don't have who our great grandfather and that journey of our lineage is kind of not all clear to us. But in Africa, they know who their forefathers are. And if they were colonized, which most of Africa has been, then they know that they didn't get a lot of what was due them. And with this a new mindset of the emergence of Africa. And with these young kids having the internet just as accessible as our kids, then they're ready, and they're ready for war. They're ready for war, right. Just straight up war. Give me mine and my grandmama's stuff too. So that creates another thrust around business opportunities. Millennials, TD Jakes talked about that too. It was amazing how we have shared so much of the same thing as it pertains to Africa. But that, you know, looking across borders, working with millennials, being innovative, these are things that you're not going to survive the next decade in business. I don't care who you are and what you do. If that is not a part of your game plan, if you don't have an Africa plan and a millennial plan, you're not going to make it. But I will say on one business that I see growing really well in Africa, you're not going to believe it, is storage units.
Somebody else was telling me that.
People are getting rich by having storage units. And the reason being is because Africans, the culture of lifestyle is changing. It's becoming a lot more cosmopolitan.
Right.
People are moving and traveling. Roads are being built all over, especially East Africa, Rwanda, Kenya, and the other country attached to Rwanda, Kenya. It's 3 countries. It's a cluster in East Africa that's doing all the development together as partners. And so roads are being built, bridges, everything that allows for your mobility in Africa is taking place across the continent.
Let me ask you this real quick. Evance Bernardin says, what if you don't have a business mindset but still want to live in Africa? What are your thoughts?
Well, I would say then maybe you want to go and work in a nonprofit organization. It just depends on what your current skill set is. You've got to work, but I'm still giving the advice for African Americans not to go to Africa looking for a job, but to go and create an opportunity for yourself. So that's really important to understand. We have less than 4% unemployment here in the United States. Right. So you would not leave a 4% unemployment market to go to a 30–40% unemployment market looking for a job. You would not do that. And you wouldn't need to go there taking a job because you have better skills, maybe than experience, maybe than an African person, but you wouldn't want to go and take their opportunity because so much of Africa is just now starting to rise. Right. And people need to have the opportunity to get on their feet and live a good life. You can find a great life here in America. Anywhere you want to go, you can find a job. But it's not like that all over the continent. So I wouldn't recommend you going to Africa without a game plan. First of all, you can't do it. It's not going to serve you. You're going to fall on some really hard times without money and without having a sustainable plan. So don't go to Africa to live if you don't have a solid economic foundation.
And then, Jackie, somebody brought up in the chat room as well, you know, as far as I would say safety issues, because they, I don't know if you've been following the shooting in Dallas where the cop went to the wrong.
Yeah, man, that's unreal. Totally unreal.
Now, incidents like that, should that even be more reason for Black Americans to consider a contingency plan in Africa?
To me, yes. I mean, I'm so frustrated by just daily something racially out of line in this country. I'm so over the top upset that I really have to say I do a good job at containing myself. Right. And oftentimes I can't even comment in social media about what goes on because it would all be just one big bleep.
Right.
I mean, really, it would, because I honestly haven't acquired the skill yet to express that level of anger without it being a whole bunch of 4-letter words. So, and for me, I do always see myself as like, I don't live here full time. Right. So I don't have to deal with this all the time. But if I did live here 100% full time, I would definitely be making an exit plan. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Plus, I think you can't live just for today. Also, you got to have a plan for your immediate future. Like, where are you going to spend the next 10, 12, 15 years of your life? Yeah. How are you going to spend it? Doing what? With whom? Where? You know, all those things to me. And we can see as African Americans being here in America that it's not going to get any better.
Right.
It's really not. It's I mean, they're already, in terms of this incident, this shooting in Dallas, they're already spinning it and making it possible for her to get off.
Right.
You know, when it's no more blatant
yeah.
than that. And it's just, I can't even comprehend it. So that being said, I know for myself that I can't wake up every day.
Right.
To this.
Right.
It's just unacceptable. I don't want to live like that. And I don't want this to be the state of my future. So I would say definitely have a plan, look at various opportunities, look at your skill set. I tell you what, I'm willing to do some one-on-one with many of your viewers. But here's what
hold on.
Right.
Disclaimer, the serious one.
Well, first of all, I know they're only going to be serious because they're going to still have to pay me.
Okay, there you go.
It's not free.
Hey guys, get the like. I mean, we have 197 people watching, only 86 likes. Please hit that like button. Okay, hit the like button. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, for $75, I'm going to give anyone, a good 45-minute consultation about your business and how it can do well, or how to point you in the right direction to do business in Africa. But I do have a preliminary thing. I want you to have your business. It doesn't have to be in total order. Just what is it that you do? Got to know that. Right. How long have you done it? And where is it that you want to do business in Africa? And then some people allow me to suggest to them where to best do business in Africa based on their industry or their finances or their ability to travel to Africa. That's really important as well. Some businesses can be self-propelling once the groundwork and things are underway, very much like the storage business.
Right.
It's not something that physically requires you to be there every day. It's low overhead, it's low on staffing, but it's really making a lot of money. Believe me, I know several people that own storage facilities and it's going extremely well. So, but for $75, I will give you a 45-minute consultation, and you're not going to find that anywhere on the planet. Okay. You know, someone will say to you, okay, I'll give you a 45-minute consultation for what, about $250. So this is even less than half of that. But anyway, for $75, I'll give you a 45-minute consultation, and you can reach out to me at info@profileafrica.org. info@profileafrica.org, and arrange your opportunity. Because here's what I know about doing business in Africa. People don't do anything that they don't pay for. They don't listen to good advice. Then they want to suck you dry of all your knowledge. And I'm going to tell you, knowledge is still king around the world. It really is. So you acquire it.
Let me ask you, Jacque. Sorry to cut you off because I'll forget. Do you think intellectual commodities is just as important as, we'll say, physical commodities?
Absolutely. Intellectual capital. Intellectual property, intellectual capital is king. It really is, especially in Africa, because as much as the internet has become the great equalizer, it doesn't take away your experience. You can't get experience on the internet. How about that? You have to actually go and do whatever, and live it and be it and breathe it, put life to those words. And that on the ground experience and navigation skills and success strategies of how to actually engage business in Africa, that's still king. It's still very much king. So you got to be able to effectively and successfully guide people in the right direction. And not everybody can take a consultation one time and be ready and go tomorrow,
right,
or next week. But what you will be able to do is understand the landscape of where your business is going to go well, and how to engage it, as well as how to be very well prepared. I always suggest to my clients who have never been, or if they're looking at a new market in Africa beyond wherever they have been, is to do a go see. You must go see, because no one can pour out and tell you everything about Africa on the phone or in a video chat, right, or anything like that. It's not gonna take away the value of putting your feet on the soil and knowing and experiencing things firsthand. Plus, you have to meet people. You have to interface with them. I can write it all out for you turn by turn, but it's you who they will be experiencing. And then you also need coaching on how to engage with Africans, the personalities and culture. Again, I'm always talking about culture in Africa. You won't get far without being able to understand culture. Because culture does inform the business arena as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what else we got here. Shout out to Amina Ra. Amina Ra lives in Mombasa. Okay. He's a Black American from LA. So he relocated to Mombasa. Has been there about 25 years now. So
wow. All right. Hey there. How are you doing?
Let's see what else we have here. I know you've been keeping up more with the African Union.
Yes.
Where are we at with that? Is it
well, believe it or not, the African Union, which is, well, okay, I think I might have mentioned before that we have an African Union ambassador to the diaspora, right, who is based in Washington, D.C.
Have you met her? Is it a lady?
Yeah, it is a lady. And so she's based in D.C. at the African Union Embassy that they call the Africa House. And they are very, very much engaged in increasing the dialogue between Africans and African Americans, and also kids and people that have come directly from Africa, because the whole idea of what an African American is has several layers now, because we have a lot of people coming straight from Africa, getting their citizenship here in the United States, which makes them an African American. And then those of us who are descendants of Africa are also African Americans. So she's helping to bridge that gap in our own community, as well as create a platform for dialogue.
See, that's like a whole, well, let's go ahead and build on that. What is she doing to bridge the gap?
Well, what has been happening in DC, as well as her going around the country, is having these dialogue events, really. Just a few weeks ago, and Akon has been helping her.
Oh, really?
He's been on a couple of the platforms, as well as other significant Africans who have lived in America, that's obviously on the front lines of Africa growth opportunities. So she's holding various workshops, talks, conferences, summits to help strengthen this cord. And she's been sitting on panels that are not driven by the AU, so that people can understand who she is and what she's here to do to help bring our communities together. In addition, this week, because I'm leaving tonight to head to Washington, D.C. for the Congressional Black Caucus. And that is a premier event. I think every African American and every African in America every year, or at least once in your journey, you should find your way to Washington and attend the Congressional Black Caucus. And mainly because it hosts everybody. I mean, everybody on the front lines of the Black agenda, from being from economically to socially, politically, internationally, they're there. And every year, Congresswoman Karen Bass has what she calls the African Brain Trust. And it's a packed room, standing room only. Media and everyone is there. And it's a full day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And it's actually happening this Friday. And it's free to come to this particular segment of the CBC to attend the African Brain Trust. And it's usually it holds heads of state, ambassadors, people from the business community, and they're talking about a variety of issues, whatever the hot topics of the day are. And so this year, she's actually doing a panel as well on doing business in Africa. And I'm not on the panel, but I am one of the people already identified to be to ask questions and engage the panel. So I'm really excited about that. And Profile Africa will be there getting interviews, etc. But that's important too, that we're working together with Congress to make sure that economic policies are in place and that they're on the front lines of addressing things like DACA, immigration, because the immigration laws are really what Donald Trump is doing right now, is creating issues with the immigration laws, basically to keep Africans or Haitians out of America, Black people, since he said he wished more people from Norway, where we know there are no Black people that live in Norway. So they've taken up that issue in Congress to make sure and get certain elements of the immigration laws reinstated so that African people can continue to come to the United States, as well as AGOA, the Africa Growth Opportunities Act, the legislation that governs all trade between Africa and the United States and vice versa. We keep that in place. It's a 10-year legislation that got renewed when President Obama was in office. And that is what ensures small and medium-sized businesses in Africa an ability to put their products and services here duty-free. And that's really important. The day an African business has to start paying big taxes, it could collapse the entire economy of a country. Because most African countries live and thrive economically off of small and medium-sized businesses. And oftentimes, America is their #1 or 2, rivaling often with China as their #1 export trade partner. So they put more of their products out, export them out to America than almost anywhere. So if anything changes that landscape, country's economic engine can collapse. So
shout out to Ghana Dan for this Ghana Dan for the super chat. Great dialogue. Thanks for this forward-thinking information. You know, there are a lot of, I would say, Pan-African platforms out there, but they don't have conversations like this. It's just focused on just a bunch of, you know, I guess rhetoric, like
sometimes they're talking.
We built the pyramids, which is fine. The history's fine, but you know, that's only gonna go so far once you get on the continent. And I'm thinking now I'm to the point where Pan-Africanism without business is Pan-Africanism in vain. That's where I'm at now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, the tagline for Profile Africa Worldwide is that we are a Pan-African economic transformation agency. And that has been our tagline since its existence. And mainly because you're right, you cannot have Pan-Africanism without economic transformation. They go hand in hand. And that should be the mantra for any and everyone who comes to Africa to do business or wants to go to Africa to do business, is that you are joining an army of Pan-African economic transformers, because the continent is so, that's the theme, you know, of why Africa is who and what it is that it is bolstering economic growth And your goal is to get in there and get involved in making that happen for yourself and others. So yeah, we got to put money, time, energy in expanding our brands and businesses in Africa and not get left behind.
And a little Sharon wants to know, can you ask how far the Africa passport is coming along and how it would affect those from the diaspora? Is that something that's actually happening, or is that?
Yeah. In some regions of Africa, you don't need.
We have the ECOWAS.
That regional pockets of regional segments of Africa, you don't need a passport. As an African, I'll say that.
Right. That's the thing, as far as the descendants of the slave trade.
Right. But not as an American. Now, in many countries like South Africa and Senegal, you don't need visas ahead of time. As long as you have a
passport, right?
You need, as long as you have your passport.
That's the same thing for South Africa and Namibia.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. South Africa gives you a 90-day visa on arrival.
Right.
And then you can always go to a border or something and stamp it in and come back if you need to stay longer than that. But the no passport across Africa is for Africans so that it increases intra-Africa trade. But for external people who hold a US or UK passport, then many have to go through whatever processes are already established for those various countries. And you should be able to Google the number of countries, because I think the person who asked that is from the UK. Then she should be able to Google the African countries that don't require an advanced visa and give you a visa on arrival. And it's quite a few, and that's actually growing. But I've looked that up as an American passport. UK, they're colonizers. I don't know.
Right.
It could be different.
Do you have South African passport?
No, I have a US passport. Yeah, I'm just US citizen.
Okay.
Yeah, just a US citizen. But yeah, that's an intra-Africa thing because Africa realized that because they have a culture of looking outside, but then they started looking inside within Africa, and intra-Africa trade began to increase. And that's also too, while you'll see these clusters of countries come together on developing that development node or that region, East Africa, West Africa, so that, and SADC, the southern area where South Africa and Namibia and all, and from what do you call it, Mozambique and Zambia, all of those are a cluster of SADC, Southern African Development area, for growth and expansion, to make sure roads, it's like being in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, make sure we can drive in a car and go all up and down there, as well as the rail system being developed in from a regional perspective, so that intra-Africa trade. I was just on the phone with one of my best guy friends. He's Zambian, but he lives in South Africa. But I was speaking to him in Zambia, and then he said he was getting ready to go to Rwanda to a conference. And, one thing I can tell you about African people, they are very mobile, because the culture of their community, where men always had to go away and work, to look after their families. And now that Africa has risen, then they too are looking from within on where their next pot of gold is, so to speak. So having that growth and development of the roads and everything to make sure intra-Africa trade stays healthy is really key. Okay, I'm reading. I should have my glasses on. Mari, he says, Africa is for Africans. You will always be Africans. Never let anybody take that from you.
Receive that. Thank you.
Amen. I agree. And yes, Africa is for Africans, and I am an African.
There we go.
So if we want to take some more questions, or
see what else we got here. We've got about 15 more minutes.
You have to read. I'm
trying to see. There's really no more. Oh yeah, it was very difficult to get a visa to Nigeria. The hardest out of every African country I've been to.
Why?
Oh, they wanted bank statements. You needed a proof of employment. You needed a letter. Well, not proof of employment. You needed a bank statement. They wanted your bank statements, letter of invitation, and they just everything cross I's, dot T's. Everything better be perfect. So, but we got it though. But I got it.
But now, okay, now that's kind of eye-opening.
Well, because I would think they would, like Senegal, they would want to encourage tourism. So I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I'm shocked.
And then it was the most expensive too. It was like $275, $250, which is the most expensive out of every country I've.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm really surprised to hear you say that because, you know, given what we were talking about earlier about how some people have put a negative spin on Nigeria. Right. I would think that they would have more relaxed terms to make sure people can come and see. Nope. And, you know.
Not at all.
Wow.
Not at all. It was the toughest visa I've ever gotten by far. Nigeria.
How long did it take?
Altogether like 2 weeks. But once I got all the paperwork together, it was about 5 days. Because they kept kicking stuff back. Oh, you need to do this. You need to do that to this document. Do this to that document. We can't accept that. We got to see this.
And so, were you doing that with the Nigerian consulate?
Yeah, they're here. They're right here
in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, yep. And see, and thank God that they were here in Atlanta, because if it was a DC, it probably been longer because I had to mail everything up.
Right. Well, it's good that and I know that the Nigerian consul general or whomever was here, he was an ambassador. I may not know the brand new guy, but they are very engaged in this Atlanta market, or just the region, because it's so populous of Nigerians. They're always busy because there's just so many Nigerians here in Atlanta. Wow, that's interesting. And then your letter, how?
Well, it was a letter of invitation. It's basically, it had to be perfect letterhead. You know, the dates. They wanted the person that was hosting me. They wanted a copy of his passport.
Right.
It was
a lot of formality.
But hey, we got it. And I'm good for 2 years with my visa.
And you better go back several times.
I'm going back. Oh yeah, I'm going back several times.
That again. Well, that lets me know what I need to do. Well, like I said, I've got a gazillion invitations to come to Nigeria. And there's just a certain way I want to enter in. And I highly recommend that for everyone wanting to do business and go into new African countries. It is really important about how you go in, who invites you, who hosts you, who does strategic introductions for you. That really carries weight and goes a long way out there as an American going to Africa to do business. So that's really good.
Okay, and people are saying the reason why it's like that is because it's hell for Nigerians to get a visa to come to America. But should that be justification for their visa rules to be just as strict, Nigeria? Because I know my Senegalese friends, LeBoy, are you in Gabon? Hold on. One second. LeBoy, if you're in Gabon and you got a couch I could crash on, I will come to Gabon first week of October. So just let me know. Okay, you're saying it's tit for tat, but countries like Senegal, there's no visa at all as long as you have a U.S. passport. Right. But trust me, it's hard for Senegalese to get over here to get a visa, because I have Senegalese friends that cannot get a visa to come over here. So
Well, I will say, even like in South Africa, I felt like they were tightening up their visa protocol, but I don't think it was directed directly to America. It was more about the regional countries of people that was coming into South Africa. But it is something to keep your eye on, given who's sitting in the Oval Office today and what spews out of his mouth with regards to Africa. It certainly doesn't help us and make things any easier either way, meaning from Africans trying to come here or us trying to go there. He clearly is aiming to create some tension there that could spill over into policies, because it's his immigration policies that's causing other countries to look at us a little differently now, and not just in Africa, but literally around the world. So that's something definitely. I want to talk a little bit about, whatever time we have left, I want to talk a little bit about a comment I heard you make on a post, either video or something, but you were talking about the difference between Africa, the ghetto in Africa, and the ghetto in America. And let's kind of unpack that a little bit, because I think that people who haven't been to Africa, they don't really understand the culture, the village construct of the culture, and how that creates a different level of security for you that being in the hood here doesn't necessarily.
No, I just, and I broke it down. There's just, I think one thing is people are so busy trying to make a living that they don't have really the time to even, I guess, focus on how they're going to rob someone, or I guess that's like the furthest thing from their mind, I think, personally. And just that, and just the code of conduct and the culture. And then also too, ownership, even though no matter how poor someone might be in Africa, in a lot of these places, they own their properties. You know, it might not be much, but they still own it. So I think ownership, they're busy, always working, or in the market selling something, they're busy working. So they don't have a lot of free time to even consider or think of participating in usually the same hood stuff that goes on here in America. And just code of conduct, the culture, you know.
And when you say code of conduct, what do you mean?
Just everyone's friendly. Like for example, when I first moved to Georgia, everyone spoke, said hello, smiled.
How long ago was that?
2000.
Okay.
Now it's like some of these kids that walk around, you say hello to them. It's like, what do you want? You know what I mean? So it's just, it's different. Everyone was beautiful, kind, receptive. Everywhere I've been to in Africa, everyone's busy working, you know, because what do they say? Idle time's the devil's best friend. See, in Africa, there's no idle time because they got to feed their family. So they're working, doing something.
Everybody hustling.
Everyone's hustling. There you go.
Yeah. And also on the hospitality side, when I'm in Africa, I don't miss out on anything, meaning I don't feel a deficit of anything in my life. I have fathers, I have mothers, I have aunties, I have sisters, brothers, children. You know, it's like that village construct is my security. It provides, even here in America, when I meet African men, they're automatically my fathers or my brother. And in so having that, I get things like one day on my last trip here, I was sitting in Atlanta's airport in Starbucks waiting on my flight. And these men who worked there at the airport was from Ethiopia, because they thought I was Ethiopian. I get that too sometimes. And so I could clearly see that they were Ethiopian. But the way they approached me, because they thought I was Ethiopian, they were so kind. And within 20 seconds, they were asking me if I wanted coffee, they could buy anything for me. And they weren't, it was like 3 of them. They weren't trying to get up on me, get a date or anything. That was just culture. When I'm around African men, they're going to sort me out. You know, and as a single woman, that's quite comforting to know, you know, and I always say I feel way more secure when I'm in Africa than I do when I'm in America. 100%. The way people take you into their homes and love you, feed you. I mean, I'm telling you, and they don't want anything. It's just their culture of how they look after each other. They eat together. That was the first thing I had to really learn, because I love everybody. Don't get me wrong. I don't like sharing my food, Dynasty. I ain't giving you a piece of my chicken. I'll buy you some chicken.
Okay, that's all good. If you
I'll buy you some your own chicken, but I don't know. And don't let it be Popeyes. We finna fight, right? So that was the first thing that I had to get broken into. Is African culture. You don't like how when you at home or you got siblings or family, and you come through the door
Mm-hmm.
with your Popeyes
Mm-hmm.
and not for everybody else. Okay,
Right.
you only child syndrome you.
Right.
But no. You don't do that in Africa. Everybody eats together. And so I had to learn that, it's again, I still say that America teaches you how to be independent. Africa teaches you how to be interdependent, and together each achieves more. And that is a continental culture, to make sure that everybody eats, everybody has a place to sleep, although there are people that are still struggling out there. But if they are part of the village construct, especially us as traveling people in the continent, we're going to be sorted out. And that makes my heart even that much larger for how I treat people here and when I'm at home in Africa. Because when I'm at home in Africa, nobody's hungry around me. I cook big, even though it's just me. I cook enough for everybody. My neighbors are going to come. My security guy, just people are going to come. And I also say that that's why people are happy to work with and for me in Africa, because I really look after my people well. And I think that that's important too, to build trust and a sense of feeling responsible for the outcomes of people's lives. That's why I keep saying, don't go to Africa looking for a job. Go there to create an opportunity for yourself and others. Because people, when they see you as an American, they're automatically thinking you're very rich. Do you get that?
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, they think you're rich. And so, especially if you're going there to do business. Now, you sometime are on a spiritual pilgrimage, cultural
but I'm starting to incorporate
pilgrimage.
more of the business into it. I'm going to, I think that's important.
So it depends on how you come in while you're there. But the moment I start talking about business, they think I'm Oprah Winfrey.
Right.
And I need to be, really, I need to have Oprah's money sometime to just rock up in Africa, right? But I'm just saying that there's a big expectation on you as an American, on us as an American, when we talk about going to Africa to actually do business. That's why, when I'm here, I have to make money in America, because this is the land flowing with milk and honey. And that's the other thing for everybody watching this video. You cannot look to garner all this information and wealth of strategies of how to go and engage doing business in Africa if you're not willing to invest in your own opportunity. By investing in that knowledge and investing in opportunities that have, or people that have the skills to take you into Africa properly, because it's such a pivotal time, 2020 and beyond. You don't want to lag behind because you wasted time, you wasted money trying to get who says
I've been raw talking shit. Hold on. Let me
Oh, he says I don't look like Oprah. I didn't say I look like Oprah. I said people think, when you're a Black woman, people can think you got big money like Oprah. And that's what I meant. Not that I look like her, but I'm saying that I want to go to Africa always in a position to grow people. And that can't happen if I myself am lagging behind. And so when you're in America, you're looking to make good money, cultivate your business, build capacity, because that's another important aspect of being successful there, is to create the kind of business that helps sustain your steps while you're in Africa. 100%.
Amara, your grill lets us know that you're not rich. Lets Africans know that you're not rich. Amara said my haircut lets Africans know that I'm not rich. Okay. You said my haircut lets Africans know that I'm not rich. I said his grill. He missing like Amara's missing like 2 teeth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, I think your hair looks great.
Thank you, Amara. You a hater. All right, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think his hair looks great. Yeah, I think you look great. But anyway, I know that a lot of people want to go to Africa. I get that all the time. And so I'm just looking forward to being a part of people's success story. I try to give the best advice, like with the land acquisition in South Africa that's going on right now, where they're talking about taking the land from the white people and giving it back to Black people. That's a pretty big deal in South Africa right now. Something similar that happened in Zimbabwe, you know. And so.
All right, cool. Well, Jackie, what we'll do, we'll go ahead and close out. I know you got to run and catch a flight here shortly. So anything else you want to share in closing? Also, shout out people where they can reach out to you and all that good stuff. And I'll put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, like I said, info@profileafrica.org. And I'd be happy to talk with anyone who has interest in going to Africa, or some people have already gone and have seen, you know, some amazing things that they want to get involved in, but they need navigation skills of how to actually bring that to bear. So we definitely want to be able to support them in that as well.
All right, cool. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you guys enjoy the program. Make sure you go to Search for Uhuru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Also go to searchforuhuru.com, DynasAmir.com, go to Amazon.com, search your name, Dynasty Amir, please buy a book. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, which will be soon, peace.